Tonight's coaching matchup brought to you by Anaconda Sports and The Rock. Joe Mihalik on the left, the head coach of the Purple Eagles, and Jeff Ruland at his alma mater, head coach of the Gales. The Rock, the official basketball of the MAAC.
As we mentioned, they've matched wits in each of the last 4 MAAC tournaments. First time in league history that 2 teams have met in 5 consecutive MAAC tournaments.
Rob, let's take a look at tonight's starting lineups brought to you by I Love New York. What a great vacation. ILoveNewYork.com.
And certainly for Iona, a ton of experience on the floor in their starting lineup, including the 3 guards, the 3 senior guards who have played so much together in Burt, Soliver, and McCullough.
There's a good view of the rafters here at the Pepsi Arena in Albany as the crowd settles back in after having watched a thriller where St. Peter's knocked Siena out. Niagara trying to knock Iona out for a 5th straight year. Marvin McCullough at the point uses the screen from Gary Springer Jr. On the pick and roll, gets it back. Springer up above the rim for the first 2.
And as always, Iona tries to establish things inside in the post early on, and then the guards start taking over as each half wears on. You'd expect that from Jeff Ruland, the big guy, trying to get his post players touches early.
Absolutely, a former NBA All-Star power forward. And he certainly knows how to make post players better at this level. Niagara with the basketball at the point. Their sophomore point guard, Stanley Hodge. This is J.R. Duffy working on Kirill Waxman. Out of bounds, and it'll stay Niagara basketball.
And that's one of the matchups that Joe Mihalik thinks that they can take advantage of, trying to take Waxman out to the perimeter, whether or not he's guarding Duffy or whether or not he's guarding Brown, taking him off the dribble.
Lorenzo Miles misfires. Mathis misses on the putback. Burt with the rebound.
But you've got to keep him off the offensive glass. He was a monster inside, especially coming down the stretch last night against Fairfield.
Mathis was unbelievable in the regular season finale against Siena. And then last night, as you referenced, just a terrific game going for another double-double, 27 points, 12 rebounds in the tournament opener last night.
And he just took the game over late, went on a mini 6-0 run himself with the game tied up at 66, just bulling his way to the basket.
Here's Cliff Brown, misses his first shot. Springer with a rebound.
Certainly Iona would like to get out and run.
Waxman hammered from behind by Mathis, who picks up his first personal foul. And now let's take a look at our Verizon keys to the game. Verizon Wireless, we never stop working for you.
Well, for Niagara, they've got to slow the game down. To do that, they've got to be able to stay in the zone for long stretches, making sure that Iona doesn't knock down threes. They've got to frustrate Iona. Certainly they've had their number in this tournament. Iona, they've got to attack defensively, try and force the pace if they can, and then they've got to make sure that they don't settle for quick shots. Not one pass and shot. Force Niagara to guard you long in the possession.
Iona has a record of 20-7, but they lost their last 2 games of the regular season, giving up the regular season title to Manhattan, so the Gales come in as the number 2 seed. Dangerous pass, but Cliff Brown just tall enough to gather it. But his three-pointer goes up and over the top.
But I like the way that Iona extends the floor, being the aggressor defensively. Like, it's important for them to get off to a good start and show some good energy early on.
And Rob, here's our series history brought to you by Pontiac, the official performance machines of the NCAA and the MAAC.
As we talked about, 5th straight year these 2 teams have seen each other in the MAAC tournament. Talked to Jeff Ruland earlier today about that, and he said, you know what? Everybody else will make a big deal about that, but every year's a different year. He said, we start off as if we've never played them before.
Burt, the 6th leading scorer in the nation with his first 3.
And that's the start that Iona needed. You know, in the back of their mind, they've struggled against this team in the tournament. Getting off to a good start certainly wipes that out of the back of their mind.
7-0 Iona.
There's a mismatch inside. They were trying to post up Brown. Can't get him the basketball. Instead, they turn it over.
Joe Mihalik has the 8th best winning percentage in MAAC history. You see the numbers overall. He has done a terrific job in his 8 years at Niagara University. second winningest coach in school history, behind the guy the building they play in is named after, Taft Gallagher.
Just as importantly, in his 8 years, nobody's won more MAAC games than has Niagara.
Carol Waxman on the reverse.
Waxman off to a good start. Iona up 9-0. Waxman's got 4 early points.
Brown calling for the ball.
Trying to post up Soliver inside. They've got to take advantage of that mismatch.
Mathis, a lot of contact with Springer. He lost it on the way up. Soliver runs the break. Burt, count the basket at 1. What a reverse, and it's 11-0.
Right now, Iona clicking on all cylinders, getting out in transition, rebounding and running. See, Soliver comes up with the rebound inside. No need for him to give up the basketball early. Instead, pushing the ball up the floor. And you see how excited he is. Those two guys do a great job of sharing the basketball out in transition.
Well, they're the highest scoring tandem in the NCAA. They average together 41.3 points per game. And they are off to a quick start. 11-0, Iona on top. Springer and Mathis basically having a wrestling match at the free throw line, and eventually a whistle blows and it goes against James Mathis, and that's his second. And we just saw duo number 5 a little bit earlier tonight. Keithman Clark and Raul Orta, the 5th leading scoring duo in the country, move on to the semifinals of the MAAC tournament. Marvin McCullough, kind of the forgotten man of that backcourt trio, turns the ball over. But in any other system, without Burt and Soliver ahead of him, McCullough would be the guy we're talking about, because he's a terrific 4-year senior guard.
And certainly has done a great job of running the team for Jeff Ruland. Basketball, McCullough's steady hands. 4 consecutive seasons of 100 assists or more.
Here's Mathis with the 2 fouls, bulling his way to the basket for the first 2 Niagara points.
And he's so strong up top that he can bull his way to the basket. Looking for contact. People are going to bounce off him.
Well, Niagara needs to make sure he does not pick up that third, because nobody in the MAAC is any more valuable to his team to be on the floor than James Mathis. There he is with a rebound.
And with their lack of depth, with only 7 players, they can ill afford foul trouble for any of their 5 starters.
A physical start to the ball game. Cliff Brown fouled. McCullough and Waxman went up top, and it's Kirill Waxman, the 6'8" senior out of All Hallows High School in New York, who picks up the foul. James Mathis, like a bull to the basket. The Purple Eagles down 9.
What are you looking for in a college? Cutting-edge academic programs, a faculty that's second to none, great recreational opportunities and residence halls? How about a college that will provide you with the education you need to become a leader in your profession and in your community? If that's what you're looking for in a college, you'll find it at Canisius. To learn more about Canisius College, call 1-800-843-1517 or visit us on the web at canisius.edu. Canisius College, where leaders are made.
Derek Hooker all smiles as the St. Peter's Peacocks won the first of our 3 second-round games tonight here at the MAAC tournament. Let's take a look back and see how the Peacocks eliminated the Siena Saints.
It started with a bit of drama and a bit of history as Kiki Clark stepped to the line, needed 2 foul shots to go above 3,000 points. Mom Rosie all excited with that big milestone. It was also a big foul shot late, none bigger than this basket to give his team the 1-point lead, and then they were able to hang on and survive the last possession. Siena able to get the ball up the floor, kicks it into the corner. Beers, a terrific 3-point shooter, comes up short on the first. The second prayer unanswered, and St. Peter's advances into the second round, into the semifinals with their second-round win by 1 over the home-standing Siena Saints.
And Mom is all smiles, as she has been with good reason all year long. She follows her son and has for the 4 years he has starred at St. Peter's College. Meanwhile, for the Purple Eagles here, down 11-0 right off the bat. They've got a big hole for themselves to dig out against Iona.
but they're a team that can score the basketball. What they've got to do is settle in on the defensive end. Remember, big factor already with Mathis with his 2 fouls. They can't afford him to pick up a 3rd foul.
McCullough, Burt, Soliver, Waxman, and Springer on the floor for the Gales, the number 2 seed in the tournament, wearing their home whites. Waxman off the pick and roll, traveled with the basketball.
He got himself deep along the baseline, as he's been able to do a couple of times here in the early going. Defensive pressure on the double team once he steps and gets by the defender along the baseline. Picks up the travel.
And so Waxman takes a seat. Anthony Bruin into the ball game.
And that's the biggest difference between these two teams. Certainly Iona's got a bench that they can go to, especially up front. They've got a lot of depth in their front court.
Duffy tripped by Bruin. First on Bruin, just into the ball game. Number 2 against Jeff Rulin's Gales. Here in the early going, just 5 minutes in. Well, I questioned in the pregame show how Iona would respond coming off of that thrilling game last Sunday. They certainly have had plenty of time to get that out of their systems. But they have responded extremely well here to begin the MAAC tournament, Rob.
And I asked Jeff Rulin that question. He said, you know what, I don't know. He said, you know, over 4 years, this team at times has been a hard one to figure out. They certainly have accomplished a lot, yet he thought coming into the last 2 games that they had finally turned the corner. He said, as soon as I thought that, what do? We go back and we lose back-to-back games against Siena and Manhattan coming down the stretch.
Well, historically, this Iona team has done very well in the MAAC tournament. As we talked about earlier, the 6-time tournament champs, Gary Springer, is fouled by Hodge. But the Gales have won it 6 times, including the last 2 times they've won it right here in this building.
Certainly coming in, even though they finished in second, losing that regular season finale to Manhattan. Certainly one of the favorites. You see Springer here, his athletic ability, one dribble covering a ton of ground. Once he crossed half court, one time to the floor, stretching out to get to the rim.
How about Gary Springer as an NFL tight end?
Oh, yeah. He's coming at you. He's got great size, good hands as well.
Yep.
Terrific athlete.
Listed at 6'9", 230, and you could see him running a post pattern like we just saw.
His father was a terrific athlete, one of the best players in the history of Iona College. Was hampered by a knee injury after his freshman year. After his freshman year, his dad was the National Freshman Player of the Year. Hurt his knee in the second year and never quite had the same explosiveness. That's when Steve Burt Sr. then picked up the slack the next 3 years, becoming the all-time leading scorer in Iona history.
And speaking of great dads in Iona history, Steve Burt Sr., the all-time leading scorer in school history. And Gary Sr. was the number 2 leading scorer until a few weeks ago when Steve Burt Jr. passed him. So it's all in the family at Iona. Soliver, what a move. Give it to Bruin, who's up above the rim.
Oh, save that one. That was a great play out in transition. Ricky Soliver, second-team All-MAAC, and certainly you can make a case for him being a first-team All-MAAC player, a guy who fills out that stat sheet, that time with another assist.
John Kelly and Kenny Jackson have both checked into the game for the Gales. Miles, nothing but net on the 2-point shot.
And Miles had a very good game last night. Only scored 11 points, but he did a great job of settling his team down against the pressure from Fairfield.
In that game, Niagara won 84-77 in round 1. They shot 50% from the floor and really dominated the boards, but I don't think they're going to have as easy time on the glass tonight as they did last night. As you talked about, Iona has a very good presence along the baseline. Although that time, Bruin's beaten for the layup. Mathis with 2 more.
Well, they rush the ball up the floor and punch it right inside to Mathis. So all of a sudden, they've taken that initial run by Iona, and now they've settled things down, leads down to 7.
This is John Kelly at the top of the key. You can see he's not going to shoot it or dribble it.
No need to guard him out there. Got to guard him wherever he's got the basketball, though.
Oh, yes. He will shoot and dribble, do it all, but he misfires that time. Steve Burt Jr. comes up short with the three-point shot.
Couple quick offensive possessions for Iona. Allow Niagara to get out in transition. You work the basketball around and force them to guard you by not getting one pass and shot. That gives you better balance to get back in transition defense.
Miles hits the three, and the Purple Eagles have cut the lead to 4.
And he can stretch you out coming in to the tournament on the regular season. Shot it at over 40% from beyond the three-point line. Showing you good range on that, part of the Niagara 7-0 run.
Over the last 5 games of the regular season, Miles averaged 20 points per. Burt for 3. He's got 8 quick points.
And Miles was trying to pass him off as he cut through, and by the time he realized there was no one to pass Burt to, he was late getting out. Burt with a quick 8.
Miles got cut off at the free throw line by Jackson. And now with 11 on the shot clock, Niagara reloads.
And with Jackson's long arms, he wasn't able to spot Mathis open inside.
Offensive foul, the clear out on Hodge. He picks it up with 11:18 left to go in the first half. We will head to break. Ricky Soliver off the fake, knows who's running behind him. Goes to Anthony Bruin, who throws it down. Iona by 7.
450 years of Jesuit tradition are woven into a Fairfield University education, an education characterized by academic excellence and service to the community. Fairfield's success is fostered by a caring faculty that knows their students as individuals. Located just an hour from New York City, Fairfield University combines a park-like campus conducive to learning with the city's cultural and career advantages. Fairfield University, where education reflects the challenges and opportunities of a changing world.
There's Gary Springer Sr. once again, the all-time leading scorer in the history of Iona College basketball. Steve Burt Sr., rather. Excuse me, we go to Steve Burt Sr. We were talking about All in the Family, Gary Springer and Steve Burt, a couple of the great names in the storied basketball history of the Gales. And so Sr. very proudly watching Junior here at the Pepsi Arena, just like he did a generation ago down at the Meadowlands cutting down the nets. He's hoping his son gets a chance to do it here on Monday night, and it's the highest scoring father-son scoring duo in the history of college basketball.
And both guys have been on the all-tournament teams here in the MAAC. Stevie Jr. last year. Dad not only on the first team as a junior, but his senior year, the tournament MVP as the Gales won one of their 6 MAAC tournament titles.
Corner jump shot by Burt Jr. And very quickly, he's got double figures with 11.
And you saw in the catches, he was backing up, looking down to make sure he was outside the three-point line. Never want to take a shot with your foot on the line. We're shot in basketball.
Stanley Hodge tries to feed the post. It was kicked by Burt. And so Niagara will keep possession on the sideline.
Stevie Burt backing up, gets his feet set, looks down, makes sure he's well beyond the three-point line. Nice stroke right there. 40% on the season from beyond the three-point line.
Well, the one thing Robbie has on his dad, Junior is the all-time three-point shooter in school history, but there's good reason for that.
Yeah. There wasn't a line, trust me. Dad never shot it within 19 feet. So they could have backed that out to the NBA line. He had that type of range, as does Stevie Jr.
There's another three-point shot. This one's off the mark. Duffy able to keep it alive to Barry DeRozier for the Purple Eagles.
Yeah, but they can't settle for quick shots like that. You'll get that shot anytime in a possession. Work the basketball, force Niagara to guard you.
Lorenzo Miles penetrates. And he's called for the charge.
This Iona team, and especially those 3 senior guards, do a great job of sliding over, giving you good help side defense and giving up their bodies. All 3 of them will step in and take the charge. This time McCullough right there, squared up, chest to chest. Plenty of time easy call by the officials on the over-penetration.
And you see the Purple Eagles with the 16 fouls. Iona's only been called for 3 so far. The Gales shooting pretty well. They jumped out to the quick 11-0 lead. It's now a 10-point advantage. Soliver double teamed against the sideline, and smartly the senior bangs it off of Cliff Brown's leg and out of bounds. Well, I don't know about how smart he is with the clippers there, that hairdo. Although you had a chance to talk to him earlier in the week, he and Steve Burt both think that mohawk is coming in pretty well. We will see that interview that you did with the 2 senior guards coming up at halftime of this ball game.
Well, you figure Stevie's going to say that. He wants to make sure Soliver keeps giving him the basketball. That time, nice feed inside to find Springer wide open. Defensive breakdown, lack of communication, part of this Iona 8-0 run.
This is the largest Iona lead at a dozen. And Gary Springer, who's got a pretty nice head of hair himself, has got 6 points to already pass his season average. Foul against Marvin McCullough as we take another look at the last Gale bucket.
Nice feed inside. Springer just stepping right into the middle of the defense. Defensive miscommunication, finds himself wide open.
Jackson with the rebound. He's played a terrific year this year. First year with Iona, transferring into the program.
Especially as the season wore down. Sometimes, especially with junior college transfers, you'll see that. Takes a while to get into the flow. And then all of a sudden, late in the season, starting to step up and contribute.
Waxman still working hard, but he gets it knocked away out of bounds. Off the Purple Eagles. Stanley Hodge upset with the call, and you can see it on his face.
Well, Iona swept the 2 regular season meetings this year against Joe Mihalik's team, and in the first game where they were able to win by 18, 17 turnovers by Niagara. Certainly one of the reasons why they had the easy win, although it was a close game up until about the last 9 minutes.
DeRozier, nice pass inside to Duffy, and Springer with a block shot.
Springer springy off his feet, going up quickly to challenge.
Terrific feed to Waxman, who has to bring it down, and in so doing gets it stripped out of bounds.
So Mathis has to come back into the game. Even though he's got the 2 fouls, they can't afford the 3. They also cannot afford to get themselves in too deep a hole, down by 12. They need his presence inside.
Here's Waxman on Duffy. Air ball on the jump hook, and Cliff Brown picks up the loose ball.
See McCullough pushing up, defending the basketball 94 feet, trying to bother Miles. Again, with this short bench, important for Iona to go attack defensively. DeRozier
off the mark. Waxman the rebound. 23-12. Iona with a lead, under 8 minutes to go in the first half. Jackson with a quick release. Little strong. DeRozier comes out with a rebound. Miles left alone with a deep 3-point try. The Purple Eagles settling for those long and quick 3-point shots.
And both teams right now settling for quick shots. Each of the last couple possessions, it's one and done, not just one shot and a rebound, one pass and a shot.
McCullough splits the double team. Shovel pass. Waxman for the left-handed flush.
Well, certainly another fine play by Marvin McCullough, as you said, splitting a double team, getting himself right through it, put the ball in his head through the double, and then finds Waxman for the easy 2.
The lead is up to 14 points. Under 7 minutes left in the first half.
Well, and I think we've gotten the answer to how Iona was going to respond after that tough, heartbreaking loss in the regular season finale. They have certainly come out and come ready to play here at the start of this one.
Marvin McCullough and the Gales jump to an 11-0 lead, and they just keep building on it here in Albany.
What was most interesting about those papers?
The biggest thing I think is that NU is a lot more challenging.
The topic for today's class is going to be community policing.
They have high expectations, but I think it helps you, prep for the real world.
I've been teaching the DARE program.
They give you a chance to actually talk to professionals in that field. You know you're going to end up somewhere great because they've given you what you need to succeed. I would like to get my master's here at NU, and then I want to be in the FBI. High hopes, huh? My name is Asha. My school is Niagara University.
I know most of you just graduated high school last year, or maybe you've been working for a while, seen some things, done some things, but nothing has prepared you for what's going to happen now. We're going to set goals for each of you, way up here, way up here, and then we're going to help you exceed them, believe it. And when finished, you're going to have not just a degree, you'll be a different person, a better person. Welcome to Iona.
Aspire, achieve. Iona. Call Iona College at 1-800-231-IONA.
For Niagara, it has been a terrific run under head coach Joe Mihalik. In his 7 years, they've won 3 regular season titles. They've gone to 1 NIT, and last year they won the MAAC championship by beating Ryder and going on to the NCAA.
Mom Dolores cheering on, and certainly that senior trio, Alvin Cruz, David Brooks, who had a terrific championship game, and Alvin Cruz, the point guard, one of the reasons why Joe Mihalik and company able to cut down the nets last year in Buffalo.
And until someone takes it from them, Joe Mihalik and his Purple Eagles are the defending champs.
And right now, somebody's taking it to them. Iona coming out, showing you a lot of aggressive play. They've gotten off to about as good a start as you could expect from Iona.
Miles has to put it up with 4 on the shot clock, and he buries it.
Well, just as they diagrammed it in the timeout coming out. Every once in a while it works out. Down by 11. Now what they've got to do is they've got to string together some stops.
Burt with a dangerous pass back out to McCullum.
Here's what Niagara's got to be able to do. Slow the game down, but they've got to guard people out of the zone. Third time we've seen one of the interior front court players for Iona flash into the middle of the zone, find the soft spot.
Anthony Bruin showing some strength and agility to make it a 13-point lead once again. 6 minutes to go in the half. Bruin with the overplay knocks it out of bounds.
Here's Miles realizing that the shot clock was down to 4 seconds. Just had to pull and fire away.
He's capable of doing it. He's the top outside threat for Niagara at 40% on the year. That's among the league leaders. But he's working the point at the moment. Bad pass to Brown. Fortunate for the Purple Eagles, it comes out to Duffy, who misses. Mathis playing with 2 fouls, working hard inside, and he earns a trip to the line.
It doesn't matter if he's in foul trouble or not. He's still going to play the same way, and that's a bull in a china closet. Putting the ball to the floor, leaning in, getting himself to the rim, and moving without the basketball as soon as shots go up. This Niagara team this season, as has been the case pretty much the entire time under Joe Mihalik, gets a ton done on the offensive boards.
See the frustration on Ricky Soliver, who picked up the foul. 15 foul against Iona.
But it's been Iona who's been frustrating Niagara with their offense. Good cut right here. Bruin realizes nobody's in front of him. Able to slash and get right into the gut of the defense. Second or third time we've seen a flash from a post player right into the middle of the lane.
And Bruin leads the team with 26 dunks. We saw the one dunk earlier. Don't often see him make a move like that. But he does shoot over 70% from the floor on the year. 5:20 to go in the half. Burt working the baseline to Bruin. And another little left-handed shot. 6 points for Bruin, and Iona builds on that lead.
Burt able to get the ball on the floor along the baseline out of the zone. It forces the defender to step up, and then nobody dives to the level of the basketball. Allows a good interior pass. Iona has not necessarily shot over top of the zone defense, but what they have done is gotten their post players involved. Bruin again moving without the basketball. Defense collapses in on Burt. Burt's able to find him.
And indeed, each of the 3 post players, Springer, Waxman, and Bruin, with 6 points apiece.
And that's a big key. And Jeff Rulin said one of the keys was to try and find some openings along the baseline behind the zone.
Here's the Broadway Marketing mind-bending trivia question. Can you name the only MAAC team to finish last in the regular season and win the MAAC Tournament Championship? Broadway Marketing mind-bending branded solutions. I know Mr. Kennedy can answer that question, as you can pretty much
answer
all of them.
Because the answer's on the bottom of the thing you read.
You didn't need the answer this time.
I did know that. Need it every once in a while.
We'll pass along that answer to you in a few minutes. 5 minutes to go until halftime. Iona with a 13-point lead at the offensive end. It has been a mighty struggle for Niagara, shooting only 31% as a team.
And credit Iona's defense. I mean, you can see the energy that they've got right now defensively with their ball pressure.
Look away pass to Waxman, who has to save it back to McCullough. Burt spotting up, drives on to Rocher, spins, shoots, and it's short. Bruin, even though Mathis had a handful of jersey, gets the offensive rebound, and Burt, not shy, fires it again, and this time he hits.
Too many chances right there. Second chance opportunity on the offensive rebound. Burt knocks down a three right now, doubling them up. Again, a ton of energy from Iona.
Burt with 14 points. Again, he's the 6th leading scorer in the country. Purple Eagles pounded inside, but a wild shot by Brown, no good. Mathis again. Blocked from behind by Anthony Bruin, who takes the ball back from Mathis. It is all frustration for Niagara at this point. Burt again for three. It rims out. Gets his own miss. Right back to the basket, no. Duffy can't save it. And it is white ball. The Gales will keep possession when we come back. As you say, Rob, you're quick with the numbers. Iona doubling Niagara 32-16 here in Albany.
I know most of you just graduated high school last year, or maybe you've been working for a while, seen some things, done some things, but nothing has prepared you for what's going to happen now. We're going to set goals for each of you. Way up here, way up here, and then we're going to help you exceed them. Believe it. And when finished, you're going to have not just a degree, you'll be a different person, a better person. Welcome to Iona.
Aspire, achieve. Iona. Call Iona College at 1-800-231.
During that last time out, a moment ago, lucky contestant Paul finished off a sequence within 30 seconds of hitting a layup, a free throw, and that three-pointer, and brought down the house. He wins 2 free tickets anywhere JetBlue Airways flies. Not a bad deal. All right, let's get back to our trivia question brought to you by Broadway Marketing. Can you name the last team to finish last in the regular season and then win the MAAC tournament title? Indeed, it is Fairfield University back in 1997. Shannon Bowman got healthy. The team came together, and Paul Cormier, the head coach at the time, pulled all the right moves. And the Stags are the answer. Broadway Marketing, mind-bending branded solutions.
Niagara struggling from the field. I think they could use Paul out there with the numbers they've put up. Just 2 for 8 from beyond the three-point line. Paul was 1 for 1. Hey, Joe Mihalik has suited up managers at halftime earlier this year, as we saw in the game we had at Marist. Maybe he can find out if Paul's got some eligibility. Wonder if he's a Purple Eagle fan.
Well, either way, Paul's got a couple of free airline tickets. Thanks to JetBlue, he can get to wherever Niagara might be playing next. Cliff Brown with a steal. Now, Brown is the one offensive player for the Purple Eagles. They've got to get going. He is still scoreless, and he continues to struggle, as do his teammates. We highlighted him on the Star Watch, averaging 24 per game over the last 7, and he has yet to make a field goal. Meanwhile, the other star for the Gales, Steve Burt, with 14.
And Brown 0 for 6 from the field. He's not had a whole lot of good looks. That time had an opportunity on the offensive rebound. Just missed an easy one inside.
They're the managers who we saw a few days ago get into a ball game for the first time.
And that's how they were in the first half. Suit and tie. All of a sudden went into the locker room at halftime. Changed in the telephone booth, trying to make a Superman comeback. Didn't happen against Marist, but certainly a great moment for those guys.
No doubt about it. And Niagara head coach Joe Mihalik calls it a halftime decision. Not a game time decision, but a halftime decision. He assesses where his team is in terms of foul trouble and the way guys are playing, whether he wants to go that route. The power move by Gary Springer Jr. And like we said, the post players for the Gales all continue to produce.
And I don't think either of those managers can come in and take that away. The interior strength right now of Iona matching that of Mathis. And that's not easy to do. Here's Springer Setting up good right here. Remember, Mathis has the 2 fouls, so he can't be very aggressive. Still giving up his body. Has to play him straight up. Springer able to drop step and get himself a good basket. Take him inside, nice drop step, keep him on his back, and then finish with the left. You know that's something that Jeff Ruland has worked on him with.
And with such terrific perimeter players for Iona, the post players, McCullough, Springer, and Watchman, pretty much know they're never going to get double teamed. They're always going to be able to just go one-on-one, and if they can be that efficient, makes this Gales team that much more tough to stop.
Absolutely. When you've got a guy feeding the ball into the post that can shoot it, now you've got balance. You can play inside out if you want. They've got to figure out a way to get Cliff Brown going. Well below his season average, and as you mentioned, Doug, those numbers have been way up over the last 7 games, averaging over 20 points per game.
Well, he's another one who transferred and had a relatively slow start to the year, and he has evolved into the role that he has now as the go-to guy for Niagara.
And he had to become the go-to guy when their best player, Sharon Fisher, their leading scorer and rebounder, went out with a knee injury.
McCullough commits his 2nd foul and the 7th against Iona. And so Barry DeRozier, the 6'1" junior from Orlando, Florida, will shoot a 1-and-1. Well, this season, Aeropostale will donate an article of clothing for every free throw made during conference play. And at the end of the year, Aeropostale and the MAAC will distribute these clothes to youth groups in our communities. And you see 2762 made so far. Thank you very much, Aeropostale. 2 minutes to go in the first half. It's been all Iona. The Gales scored the first 11 points of the ball game.
And somehow Niagara's got to just hang in there for this last 2 minutes and see if they can't cut this lead down to single digits.
Springer called for the offensive foul.
What you can't do if you're Iona is pick up silly fouls, turnovers to allow Niagara an opportunity to get into it. Don't want to waste this great effort that they've had and great energy that they've had here in this first half.
Joe Mihalik looks to make a change. He took Greg Noel out after just putting him in for a moment. Mathis back into the game. Niagara continue to struggle here at the Pepsi Arena. Mathis with a great catch. Count the basket and 1.
I talked about the fact that the Iona guards will slide over and try and pick up the charge. Joe DeMeo says that Stevie Burt's a little late getting there and a little too deep. See Mathis right here still being aggressive despite the fact he's got those 2 fouls. Able to bull his way inside. Niagara struggling to shoot the basketball tonight. Did struggle last night. I mean, they shot it extremely well. Well over 50%, led by this guy, Mathis, who was 10 for 11 from the field against Fairfield.
Mathis completes the 3-point play. He's got a dozen, and once again, Joe Mihalik protects him by getting Noel in and putting Mathis out with the 2 fouls. So the Purple Eagles trying to get it back to single digits before halftime.
And again, if you go into the locker room and the lead is single digits, that's a moral victory for Niagara. Now you can say, hey, you know what? We took Iona's best shot, and we're still in this ball game.
Burt fouled by DeRozier, and so he will shoot 2. First on DeRozier and the 7th on Niagara. Once again, Niagara has eliminated Iona from the last 4 MAAC tournaments, and the Gales certainly made a statement from the get-go here tonight that they didn't anticipate that happening again.
And last year was that epic game, a heartbreaker, 69-66 in the semifinals. Iona had the basketball, had an opportunity to win it in regulation, but a great defensive play by David Brooks to force a turnover. And amazingly enough, a Niagara team known so much for their offense had a huge defensive play that saved the game.
Burt now with 16 points to lead all scorers. Mathis remains on the bench for this offensive possession. Joe Mihalik decides to leave Noel in the game with 1:12 to go in the half.
And against the pressure, they get the ball into the middle of the floor and break it.
Lorenzo Miles creates his own space and puts up a shot that misses badly. Duffy tracks down the rebound and fires right back up. He's had a quiet first half, as has Cliff Brown, who goes right to the rim. And finally, he's got his first field goal of the game. And with under a minute to go in the first half, it's 36-25.
And timeout Niagara right there. Not quite sure about that one. Joe Mihalik has already called the timeout here in the first half, so it was not a use it or lose it situation. Niagara's shown you good hustle. Haven't shot the ball very well, including that bad miss. Settling for jump shots, but certainly giving you effort on the glass. This time, don't settle for the jump shot as Brown puts the ball to the floor and attacks.
My goodness, at halftime, I think they might have to repaint the tops of the rims down at that end. Niagara only shooting 29% from the floor, only 18% from beyond the three-point line. They just keep firing it up. But at least on that sequence, the Purple Eagles kept tracking it down and finally got the high percentage shot inside. And at times, we've seen it all season long. Their best offense is put it on the rim and go get it with their offensive rebound. Jackson gives to Bruin. Under 40 seconds left in the first half. Kirill Waxman back into the lineup for Iona. Calling for the ball, getting it. Nice pass to Bruin. And a chance for a three-point play. So the big guys inside continue to produce for the Gales. Waxman with the terrific feed and Bruin with the finish. Great interior passing, and all those post players have been active. You see Waxman demanding the basketball on a nice seal up in the paint. Here comes the double from the weak side. Noel leaves his feet, and there's Bruin moving without the basketball to find the opening in the lane. Bruin gets the roll. He now has 9 points, and the lead is back up to 14. Shot clock off. Duffy gets it back to Miles, who will trigger with 10 seconds to go. Trying to post Brown. Air ball. Assist. Oh, no baskets. DeRozier couldn't even take the easy one and put him in. And nothing has been easy for the Purple Eagles in the first half. Joe Mihalik still positive, applauding his team as they head off. But Iona with the big lead. Steve Burt Jr. with 16 points. And it's 39-25. Gales on top. They used that 11-0 quick start, and they've been able to maintain that lead. Our halftime show's coming up. It will include an interview with Rob Kennedy along with Ricky Soliver and Steve Burt. That's coming up in just a few minutes, so stay with us here in Albany. As we revisit our Star Watch with the update, Cliff Brown, number 33 in purple, is the one who really needs to get things going for Niagara. That 14-point difference between those two stars is the difference in the game, and you see the difference for Cliff Brown tonight as compared to last night against Riders. So the Purple Eagles really got to get him going. And 1 for 8. He's been settling for some outside shots. 0 for 2 from beyond the 3. They've been able to establish Mathis inside. They've got to figure out a way to do the same with Brown. And again, Brown's only field goal of that first half came very late. Iona has had a comfortable lead right from the beginning. That was off an offensive rebound. Again, Niagara shooting the ball so poorly at 27%, they're going to have to go get it on the offensive boards. Stanley Hodge picks up his third, and he's one of those players who I think has never committed a foul in his own mind. Every single one draws that face. He's had good reaction. You look at the stat sheet. How about the fact that Niagara's got 10 offensive rebounds, and they're still only shooting it at 27%. So on their initial offense in the half court, they have not been able to score. Kirill Waxman fouled down the way up. Mathis has just picked up his third personal foul. He was able to play just about the entire first half with 2 fouls. See, defense falls asleep. Marvin McCullough makes him pay for it, even though Waxman misses the easy one inside. Able to stay with it long enough to get himself an opportunity from the line. And so Mathis will stay into the ball game, at least for now. Ball tipped out by Springer, and McCullough has it for the Gales. And all of a sudden, Iona getting after it on the offensive glass. Duffy went for the pump fake, and Burt made him pay.
They may only have 5 offensive rebounds in the first half and a couple here in the second, but when they've gotten second opportunities, certainly Jeff Ruland's team has taken full advantage of those extra possessions.
Well, things are much different tonight for Joe Mihalik's Purple Eagles than last night, where they shot 50% in beating Fairfield 84-77. It has been a monumental struggle, especially at the offensive end, for Niagara here tonight. We've got a timeout. Steve Burton leading the way for the Gales now with 19 points. It's all Iona as Joe Mihalik's club continues to search for answers. There is no name more closely associated with the history of Iona College basketball than Jeff Ruland. And as we celebrate the 25-year anniversary of the MAAC, let's take a look back at a great moment in Iona basketball history.
It was exactly how they envisioned it. Coach Jim Valvano had urged forward Jeff Ruland to visualize dominating the nation's best team. And Ruland, the All-American, did just that with 30 points and 21 rebounds against eventual national champion Louisville. It was the last game the Cardinals would lose that year.
Well, Rob, the Gales entered that game as 17-point underdogs and left as 17-point winners.
And it was one of the few times back then that the Garden was electric for college basketball. And certainly Jimmy Valvano put this Iona College program on the map, and that win right there stamped them as a national program.
Lorenzo Miles pulls up, can't get it to go. Ricky Soliver holding on for dear life with that rebound. Waxman, count the basket and one, and that's the 4th foul on Mathis.
And coming into the game, you know that Niagara's got to dominate in the paint if they're going to get themselves an opportunity to walk out with a win. Instead, it's been the Iona front court who has had the better day, and now Mathis in foul trouble picks up his 4th. Talked about their lack of depth on the front court. That really takes a hit right there as Mathis heads to the bench.
So things go from bad to worse for the guys in purple from Western New York. There's a reverse layup by Cliff Brown, and that's what they're going to need to do.
Yeah, they get an opportunity to punch it into him on the low post. Not a very good post feed, but Brown makes the entire play with a good catch and the strong finish.
Springer working hard inside to get up and around Brown for 2 more.
Well, the up fake and then steps through and finishes it. So Iona not settling for 3-point shots here, pounding the basketball inside.
And again, the 3-headed post monster for the Gales, getting it done as Duffy hits a 3. Springer with 10, Bruin with 9, Waxman with 8.
And if Iona's going to pound the basketball inside and take advantage of their size, well then the likes of Duffy have to take those big guys out to the perimeter and try and exploit their strength by making them guard out beyond the 3-point line.
Ricky Soliver, the MAAC's Defensive Player of the Year for 2006, picks up the personal foul with the over-aggressive defense in the backcourt.
There's a look at Duffy, and again, if he's going to get beat up inside because he's not as big, take him out to the perimeter. You got to force the matchup yourself.
Foul off the ball against Gary Springer for throwing an elbow. That's his 3rd, and so he'll go out. Anthony Bruin will come back in. And you saw Steve Burt, the senior, telling Gary Springer, you got to set the pick without throwing that elbow. And so he will sit down with the 3 fouls. Miles, Duffy, and Hodge around the perimeter. Brown underneath. DeRozier works along the right baseline for the Purple Eagles. .15 on the shot clock. Brown rises up and misfires. Soliver the defensive rebound.
He takes him out to the perimeter, but settling for jump shots. Brown has the ability and the quickness to put the ball to the floor and drive by Waxman.
McCullough's pass through the hands of Waxman. And the Purple Eagles back the other way. Nice catch by Brown, working on Bruin to the reverse, and the foul against Waxman.
Well, right now, Niagara looking for any kind of life. Right now, they're getting it from Brown. We talked about his inability to score it in the first half. Just one for 8, starting to heat up here in the second.
Now Brown made the third-team All-MAAC All-Stars as they were announced earlier this week, and you can see part of the reason why.
Well, he's long. He's got good bounce. You see him able to finish on the other side of the bucket with the tough finish. His buckets here in the second half, though, have been inside. A couple times when he settled for three-point shots, guarded out on the perimeter, nothing happening. Put the ball to the floor, attack the rim.
Well, at 6'7", 225 pounds, he is long enough and is big enough at this level to do some damage inside.
And plenty mobile. So he'd be able to get by people, and then once he gets there, use that length and strength to be able to finish.
Steve Burt to Bruin. They don't guard him that far out. Whistling a foul off the ball. Soliver wound up on the deck, and the official says it's because of a push against Niagara. That foul against Duffy. Here's Anthony Bruin, and he'll go to the line to shoot a couple. Now it's been a big game so far for Anthony Bruin. 9 points. He averages 6.6 per. And the junior forward, who is from the Albany area, went to Colony High School, has a chance to shoot 2.
They've just been able to pin the defense from Niagara on their backs. All 3 of them on that made foul shot, now in double figures. And when they get that kind of production from their front court, certainly Iona, tough team to beat.
Kenny Jackson back in for Iona as Bruin, the son of Red Bruin, the former Syracuse star, gets 1 out of 2 from the foul line. Good fight by Niagara to try and keep possession, but Brown couldn't gather it in, so the Gales get it back.
Again, another poor post feed. DeRozier, each of the last couple times when he's been on the wing, has not been able to make the good entry pass.
Burt, Soliver, Waxman, Bruin, and Jackson out there for the Gales in their home whites. Catch and release. Burt missed it. Soliver and Waxman ran into each other chest to chest, and so a 4-on-1, a breakout for Miles.
And nearly a breakout the other way as nobody was back for Niagara. Soliver was looking to try and leak out ahead to get a basket at the other end. Miles now in double figures. Lead down to 14.
Burt makes it back to a 16-point game, and a quick timeout called by Coach Rulin.
He wasn't happy with the fact that his team let down there a little bit and allowed Niagara to get themselves on a bit of a run. Niagara able to get out in transition. As we said, 4-on-1 became 5-on-1 there late. But Burt's got the answer on the other end. So good with the basketball. Breaks you down off the bounce, behind his back, and tough finish with some contact.
One of the Quint captains for the Iona Gales. He said something interesting at the halftime interview with you, Rob. He talked about, and kind of hinted at the fact that he likes being in a conference like the MAAC so that he can kind of be a big fish in a small pond and really flourish, as opposed to perhaps having an opportunity to play at a bigger conference but not having the chance to do some of the things he's done.
And he also talked about his high school teammates who both are in the semifinals. He's hoping to join his 2 backcourt mates, Jason Wingate, star point guard for Manhattan. They've got the double bye into the semifinals. And then he saw Kiki Clark earlier today score his 3,000th point and get St. Peter's into the semis.
Now, there are all sorts of connections with the metropolitan area to Iona College, the way it's been for many years, and the winning percentage has been the best of any metropolitan area Division I team over the last decade. Lots of success in New Rochelle. Steve Burt's been a big part of it for the last 4.
That possession right there basically sums up how this game has gone for Niagara. A couple easy shots inside, can't come up with it. Everybody's crashing the offensive boards. That allows Iona to get out and run.
Soliver to Burt. We've said that many times over the last few years. Duffy short, and Waxman with a rebound. 53-35. Iona with the lead in the basketball. Anthony Bruin again with the left hand for 2 more.
And great catch and quick finish. Right now, Iona has everything going their way, stretching the lead out to 20 behind the fine play of their front court. Bruin with 12, a perfect 5 for 5. Waxman and Springer have helped dominate the paint.
Brown finally hits from three-point land.
Well, he's got that ability, those tough matchups. He's got a big guy on him, can take you out to the perimeter. He's got a guard, he can post you inside.
Well, we said he's got to pick it up. He scored only 2 points in the first half. He's got 10 so far here in the second half for a dozen overall. Soliver with another assist. This time it's Kirill Waxman with the finish.
But it doesn't matter what Niagara does on the offensive end. If they can't back it up with some stops at the defensive end, it's not going to matter.
Bruin's going to pick up the personal foul at the other end. Time out on the floor as Ricky Soliver is making friends with his teammates. One to Steve Burt. Then he finds Anthony Bruin on the low post. And the last one is Kirill Waxman. Senior to senior with the dunk. Iona on top, 57-38.
What was most interesting about those papers?
The biggest thing I think is that NU is a lot more challenging.
The topic for today's class is going to be community policing.
They have high expectations, but I think it helps you, prep for the real world.
I've been teaching the DARE program.
They give you a chance to actually talk to professionals in that field. You know you're going to end up somewhere great because they've given you what you need to succeed. I would like to get my master's here at NU, and then I want to be in the FBI. High hopes, huh? My name is Asha. My school is Niagara University.
Iona 57, Niagara 38. The Gales led 11-0 from the get-go. And the fans here at the Pepsi Arena enjoying it. Fidelis Care is proud to sponsor the Fidelis Care family section. Fidelis Care providing free or low-cost health insurance to all New Yorkers through the Child and Family Health Plus programs. And Ricky Soliver, who we featured going to break with the pass, showing he could shoot the ball as well, although we haven't seen that tonight. But again, with a team as deep and well-rounded as Iona is, you can do without scoring from any one of these guys. Burt goes for 23 points. Soliver doesn't need to score so much. You've got the front line. Springer with 10, Waxman with 10, Bruin with 12. You don't need Ricky Soliver to have a huge scoring game to have this big and comfortable lead.
And he's the type of player that can have a terrific game without scoring a basketball. Talked about the fact earlier that he fills up a stat sheet, averaging over 5 rebounds and over 4.5 assists per game.
Kenny Jackson, nothing but net. A perfect swish for the junior from Boston.
And on that, Joe Mihalik put his head down, and that's what's happened to his team. They squirt down here, you get a 3, you figure, you know what, maybe we've got a little energy on the 3 by Duffy, and then they can't guard anybody at the other end.
Springer takes it away from Brown. Burt, that's a 2-point shot that's off the mark. 60-41, Niagara down with the basketball. DeRozier, nice up fake, right to the basket, but he missed it. And a whistle and a foul.
Late call on the contact. That became a no harm, no foul. If the basket goes, you're not going to have the whistle on it. He misses a layup on this contact. You see Springer coming over late. Certainly he did not have his spot there. And as he missed the layup, DeRozier have an opportunity to go get 2 from the line.
Niagara with a record of 11-17. They put themselves into a position as the 7th seed in the tournament to have to win 4 in a row to successfully defend their 2005 MAAC tournament title.
And as we talked about last night, this is a team for Joe Mihalik that certainly hasn't had a lot of things go their way, haven't had a lot of good bounces. They've lost a number of heartbreakers, including 3 overtime losses in MAAC League play. So there's no question about it that this team, a couple things bounced the right way, certainly could have been much more than a 7 seed.
And again, doing without 6'3" sophomore Sharon Fisher, who was averaging 18 points and 8 rebounds a game when he went down with a left knee injury at the end of January in a game against Ryder.
And it's always so tough for any team to survive the loss of their best player. How about 2 teams in the MAAC have been able to do that? Manhattan losing their best player in C.J. Anderson, and they were able to hang on for the regular season championship. as well as this Niagara team that has fought through that injury to Fisher.
Miles penetrates, gets it up over Bruin. Brown tries to tip it in. It goes out of bounds. And it's Iona basketball.
And Joe Mihalik has remained positive the entire time. As soon as Fisher went down, remember the second consecutive year that Fisher has gotten hurt late in the season and has not been able to play the remainder of the year. But he remained positive, and certainly his team never packed it in. Despite losing their last 4 games coming down the stretch, they bounced back with the first-round win last night against Fairfield.
More good work inside for Waxman, who's got 14. And Joe Mihalik is also playing through some pain this year. He's got a degenerative hip problem that quite likely will lead to hip replacement surgery, and in spite of that, he has continued to lead the Purple Eagles this year. But right now, things are not going so well. Jeff Ruland at the timeout with their biggest lead of the night, 64-42.
What was most interesting about those papers?
The biggest thing I think is that NU is a lot more challenging.
The topic for today's class is going to be community policing.
They have high expectations, but I think it helps you, prep for the real world.
I've been teaching the DARE program.
They give you a chance to actually talk to professionals in that field. You know you're going to end up somewhere great because they've given you what you need to succeed. I would like to get my master's here at NU, and then I want to be in the FBI. High hopes, huh? My name is Asha. My school is Niagara University.
Success comes true.
Back at the home of the Siena Saints, 64-42 our score. Iona with the lead in round number 2 of the MAAC tournament. Siena was knocked out earlier tonight, but that brings us to our MAAC 25th anniversary moment. Back in 1994, the Saints went all the way to Madison Square Garden under the direction of head coach Mike Dean. Eventually lost to Villanova, but in the consolation game, Doremus Bennerman went for 53 points in one of the most incredible performances you will ever see. And he was named NIT MVP in spite of being on the third-place team. Jackson tries to make it 2 in a row for the Gales. Can't do it. Justin Marshall has come into the game for the first time for Iona. Waxman with a block shot, and then either Waxman or Marshall will pick up the foul.
Remember, one of the things for Iona, you're up by 22. You want to try to make sure that you finish out the game on a nice, positive way. You see the nice drive right here by Miles as he gets deep into the lane. As always, Niagara after it on the offensive glass. But not only do you want to finish up in a positive frame of mind, but you want to make sure that you get some of your starters and key players as much rest as you can. Joe Mihalik's team last year, when they won the MAAC championship and advanced to the NCAA, only had to play the 2 games because they had the double bye. Iona losing in the last regular season game, they're going to have to win 3 games in 3 nights, so that's where your depth becomes a big factor.
Hodge back into Brown. Draws a lot of attention and gets it knocked away. We're glad you could join us here on a Saturday night in Albany for the second round of the MAAC tournament. Brought to you by Citizens Bank. This is Niagara and Iona in the middle of our 3-game set. Along with Rob Kennedy, this is Doug Sherman. And we are scheduled still to have a 10 o'clock tip-off in our upcoming game, the third of our 3 between Marist and Canisius. Niagara has its shooting percentage up to 30, and that speaks volumes. If it's up to 30, you're probably not doing too well.
No, they dug themselves too big of a hole, and certainly it was the energy and enthusiasm right from the start of this game in that 11-0 run from Iona that set the tempo.
Soliver, Waxman, Marshall, Jackson, and this is Marvin McCullough. Nice runner, no. Kirill Waxman played a little bit like Moses Malone here tonight. Another tip in, and the senior out of All Hallows High School in New York has 16 points.
And doing a great job on the backboards as well, now with 9 rebounds, closing in on a double-double.
I correct myself. I see he's got 18 points now. So like you say, getting even closer to the double-double. His career high in points, 24. His career high in rebounds, 18.
Jeff Rowland in a timeout late in that game when he had the 18 rebounds against Fairfield. He said with a straight face to his team, now let's just throw the ball into Kirill a couple times. He'll miss shots, and then that way he'll be able to get his 20 rebounds.
Anybody pick up on it? I would assume so.
Yeah, he said he got a chuckle out of everybody.
Bright crew, they know what he's talking about.
Locksman certainly is active inside, has had a solid senior season.
Soliver got the shot off before the shot clock expired, but it went out of bounds. And Niagara will get it.
See, Waxman's going to start off on the high post, and as the dribble penetration comes from Waxman, instead of staying at the high post, just dives down. That's the key to offensive rebounding. Keep yourself moving. Don't allow somebody to get a body on you and box you out.
Iona with 4 players in double figures. Niagara with 3. Duffy's been quiet tonight. He gets the layup. He has 5 points.
He's got the size on Soliver, able to take him into the low post. They haven't been able to take advantage of some of those mismatches.
Burt and Bruin will come back into the Iona lineup at the next stoppage of play. Well, with 5 seniors on this Iona roster, this is the year that the Gales have been pointing toward for many, many years. They have figured that with this group that they have, if they stay together and continue to grow, this is what could happen. And a 20-7 record in the regular season certainly has shown that Steve Burt Jr. and the rest of the crew has had that come to fruition.
And as you're talking about, Doug, certainly their freshman year where they stepped up and all 3 of the freshman guards had fine seasons. Soliver on the all-rookie team, Stevie Burt right there as the season wore on. But then after that, they had disappointing sophomore and junior seasons, including the disappointing loss in the MAAC tournament last year to Niagara in the semifinals. But now this is their opportunity, their last opportunity to try and finish it off with the championship.
Steve Burt with 23 points to lead all scorers for the Gales. Soliver bends over after apparently having taken a shot to the midsection.
He and Duffy getting into it on the left wing. Bit of a frustration foul from Duffy. Talk about the fact that one of the keys was for Niagara to try and frustrate Iona. Instead, it's been an incredibly frustrating day for Niagara. Frustrating end to the season for Duffy as he fouls out.
It appears that Soliver is receiving treatment for the shot as Duffy is fouled out. And not much to be said at this point for Joe Mihalik, where last night's game was a nail-biter to the finish. Niagara winning by 7 as it pulled away against Fairfield at the end. This one has been a much different story. Ricky Soliver and the Gales jumped to an 11-0 lead.
And in that game last night, they were able to shorten it down and now all of a sudden make it a couple possession game. They don't have the depth nor enough guys that can score consistently to be able to challenge toe-to-toe against a team like Iona.
Soliver with another rebound, pushing the tempo, looking for a teammate, finds Bruin. And the trailer very nearly got the slam. Instead, he will shoot a couple of free throws.
And as has been the case all game long, Iona's been the aggressor. Defensively coming out and attacking, and offensively, especially out in transition. When the ball's in Soliver's hands, he's going to find people. Anthony Bruin going right through the contact, nearly had the dunk and an opportunity to finish the three-point play.
If you were picking up sides with these 10 players or these 15, 16 players, I would think a lot of folks would pick Ricky Soliver first. He seems to be the consummate teammate and is never me first. Always looks to, make his teammates better.
Absolutely, and if you're a guy who's looking to get the ball out in transition and get some shots up, you're obviously going to pick him. And that's what Stevie Burt has done his entire career. Run the floor, and if you do that, Soliver will find you. Same thing with McCullough. Both those guys really are point guards, and that's what makes them spread you out and be able to go 3 out and 2 in. And when they get the post play like they have tonight from their interior guys and scoring it the way they have, Now all of a sudden that scoring balance makes them really tough.
Well, 2 of Iona's 5 starters have not scored tonight.
Yep.
McCullough and Soliver, a combined 0 for 5 from the floor, but they each have 7 assists.
Yeah, so you can dominate the game, and because they've got that depth, as we've talked about, one of the biggest differences between these two teams. Niagara has no depth to speak of. Even before Fisher went out, they really only went 8 deep, and then when he went out, down to 7.
Under 8 minutes to go in regulation. We'll take a break. 7:49 left to go. Iona closing in on a spot in the MAAC semifinals tomorrow night.
I know most of you just graduated high school last year, or maybe you've been working for a while, seen some things, done some things, but nothing has prepared you for what's going to happen now. We're going to set goals for each of you. Way up here, here, way up here, and then we're going to help you exceed them. Believe it. And when finished, you're going to have not just a degree, you'll be a different person, a better person. Welcome to Iona.
Aspire, achieve. Iona. Call Iona College at 1-800-231-IONA.
At St. Peter's College, success is a team effort. St. Peter's College, education one student at a time.
We're back in Albany, and Niagara has gone to its managers again. That's David Houle, the manager who did get into the ball game at Marist back in the regular season. He's lacing up the sneakers because Joe Mihalik has sent 2 of his senior managers back into the locker room to get ready to come into the ball game if necessary, and with that short bench. And there are a couple of scholarship players who he doesn't want to bring into the game to protect the redshirt season, Rob, and so the managers are the ones who might get into the ball game here in the MAAC tournament.
Yeah, they may need him. Already a foul out to Duffy. That gets him down to just 6 available players. As you mentioned, both Gordon and Patterson, freshmen who are planning the redshirt. You can't put them into the game. You put them into the game this late in the season, and there goes that 1 year.
So David Houle and Sean Mahaney are the managers who got in and played 1 minute against Marist, and quite likely we'll see them again here tonight. Mathis blocked by Bruin. Mathis looking for the foul down low on Waxman, who was doing the dirty work, and it was Bruin who came up top to clean things up.
Yeah, you'll see the block from Bruin after the foul from Waxman. Waxman gets a ton of body down low with the contact, nothing there, and there comes Bruin from the weak side.
On the inbound, Cliff Brown with a left-handed shot. He now has 15 points, 13 of those coming since the intermission.
Yesterday, he was named the MAAC 6th man of the year. He had that role early on for the Purple Eagles. Since then, has been in the starting lineup, and his point production after Sharon Fisher went out was nothing short of spectacular.
And he's got 15 points and 7 rebounds so far tonight, although his shooting percentage has not been good, 5 out of 17. Mathis with a real strong move inside. Mathis now with 14.
Everything about him is strong. Every time he shapes up inside, does a great job of playing from low to high, sitting down in the post, clearing space.
Well, this is a guy only averaging 11 points per game this season, but in his last 3 games here at the Pepsi Arena in the regular season and then the 2 here in the tournament, he has gone for 21 points, 27 points, and 14 tonight.
And a guy last night that Joe Mihalik talked about it, just would not allow his team to lose. He said he's as good a leader as he's had throughout his college coaching career. Nobody plays with more energy, more enthusiasm. And he said no guy has been better in the locker room than has been his senior, James Mathis.
And so that senior, James Mathis, goes to the line to shoot 2.
Talking to Joe Mihalik earlier today, he said late in the game when we got ourselves in that run, Mathis scoring 6 straight points when the game was tied at 66. He said one time he scored the basketball and just yelled out, "We ain't going home." He said then he knew that he was going to be all right coming down the stretch.
Well, you talked to him afterward on the post-game show, and he said something that really caught my attention. You know, we so often hear so many cliches from college athletes, and he came right out and said, I take a lot of pride in having Niagara on my shirt, and the fact that we are the defending champs, I don't want to go home.
He said, I've had 4 great years here. I don't want it to end. He said, this is as much fun as I'm ever going to have. Earlier today, Joe said, you know what, we've been loose, and he really felt good coming into this game. He said, we've been pumped up, we've been confident, we've been here before, but certainly they ran into a buzzsaw with the energy that Iona has shown. They've been the aggressor all game long.
Brown, way off the mark. Anthony Bruin with the rebound. Now, if you're Iona, at what point does Jeff Rulin start clearing out his bench? Because he still has Soliver, McCullough, Burt, and Waxman, 4 of his senior captains on the floor.
Now, pretty soon, probably at the next media timeout, you get an opportunity to get those guys some reps. They haven't had to expend a whole lot of energy here in this game. They've had it going their way right from the start. Soliver gets himself in the scoring column. As we said, he's been quiet as far as scoring, but certainly hasn't been quiet with his all-around game, including those 7 assists and 6 rebounds.
Well, it's not often that your second leading scorer, who averages 16 per game, can wait until this late in the ball game to get his first points and it not be a problem, but not a problem here. Ricky Soliver with the 3, and it just balloons the lead back to 21.
A great example of Iona sharing the basketball. Not one pass and done. Instead, 4 or 5 touches. You force Niagara to go guard you for a long period in the possession. Ricky Soliver with just 3 points, but certainly a solid all-around game.
Ricky Soliver in the top 20 all-time in scoring at Iona. Has had some injury problems during his 4 years, so his career numbers aren't quite what they could have been. Fans, don't miss your chance to help the MAAC celebrate this 25th anniversary season by voting for the best 25 athletes in MAAC history on MAACsports.com, where you can always stay connected to the MAAC and your favorite players. Lorenzo Miles now with a dozen for Niagara as we wind down to the 5-minute mark. Be sure to stay tuned. This is only game 2 of our triple header from the MAAC tournament. Round 2 continues with the Marist Red Foxes and the Canisius Golden Griffins scheduled to tip off around 10 o'clock.
Those 2 guys sharing the ball. No, you shoot it. No, here, you got it. And that's the unselfish play. When they defend and share the basketball, certainly Iona's as good as any team in this league.
Cliff Brown passed it right to Waxman, who passed it right back to Brown. You're wearing different colored jerseys, fellas. Anthony Bruin. He'll go back to the line to shoot 2.
James Mathis a little too emotional after picking up the foul. Unhappy with that one. Pulling off that jersey you were just talking about. So proud to wear the Niagara on the front of his jersey. Gets teed up for that reaction, and that will be the end of his career.
And that is too bad. You can see the emotion on his face, and he is acutely aware of the fact that that is how his 4-year run in a purple uniform is going to end.
Not much to complain about that. Clearly contact, but that's the emotion. He talked about it last night, not wanting his career to end. Certainly not the way he wanted to see this come to a close.
But he can walk out of the arena with his head held high once again with a solid stat line. 15 points, 10 rebounds. And Joe Mihalik's club, after falling behind 11-0, never has been able to pull itself out of that hole.
And he's the one senior of note that Joe Mihalik's team is going to lose. But certainly his toughness, his physical presence inside, and his leadership in the locker room will be sorely missed by Joe Mihalik.
So Greg Noel has come back into the ball game for Niagara, and there are no more scholarship players available on the bench for the Purple Eagles.
And that's why Joe Mihalik had to send the managers in to get them dressed at halftime. See him talking to his senior.
Anthony Bruin having a terrific game, and his 70% field goal percentage will continue to go up. 5 for 5, as you see from the floor.
He should dunk his foul shots. 34% on the season, like Wilt used to do.
Well, with
a little step, or like Shaq did in the All-Star game when he threw it against the glass for the dunk.
Go up and get it. Well, with the kind of leaping ability Bruin has, maybe that's not so far-fetched.
Start busting his chops. He steps up. Nice stroke on that one. Didn't look like a 34% foul shooter.
Well, his career field goal percentage is 59. And Jeff Ruland, his head coach, has the best all-time field goal percentage in school history at 64. But Bruin's got another year to continue to improve on that next year. Maybe get his name up there along with his head coach.
70% this year. If he would have qualified with enough field goal attempts and makes, he would have been right up there with the national leader.
Darnell Wilson has the crown in the MAAC at just over 60%. And like you say, Bruin, who just picked up his 4th foul, has not made enough field goals to qualify for that. Cliff Brown, the transfer from Kent State University, at the line.
Certainly next year he will be expected to step up in the go-to role right from the start. Get Fisher back, and with the emergence of Brown, that certainly gives Niagara a 1-2 punch up front that can contend with any other team in this league.
Rob, this copyrighted telecast of the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference may not be retransmitted, reproduced, or rebroadcast without the express written consent of the MAAC. Brown now with 17 points. Bruin left the ball game after picking up the foul, and Gary Springer has come back in. Steve Bird leads all scorers with 23. Soliver toes the line, can't get the roll. Noel the rebound for the Purple Eagles. Well, St. Peter's won the first game tonight. Keedron Clark and the Peacocks knocked Siena out of the MAAC tournament. They're on to round number 3. And we are getting closer to Iona moving on to the Final Four of the MAAC tournament tomorrow.
This is Siena, a college that builds competence and character, where you're part of a team, a place of academic rigor that builds leaders, offering opportunity and values that prepare you for change, leadership, and life. The tradition, the community of Siena, educating for success, one student at a time.
Back here in Albany, during that timeout, great display of sportsmanship right here for James Mathis, who got teed up after his reaction from the foul out call by Joe DeMeo, going over and saying, hey, I lost my head for a little bit. And certainly the emotion when your career comes to an end as a senior, summed up on the bench as Mathis had a towel over his head. Joe Mihalik talking to him, but good job to come out and make sure he says, hey, I didn't mean to do that. Yep. My emotions just got the best of me.
As classy a gesture as you'll have, and that'll be a better finishing memory than the way he walked off the floor 5 minutes earlier.
Certainly he's had plenty of terrific memories here at Niagara. 2 trips to postseason, a couple years ago to the NIT, and then to the NCAA tournament last year after winning the MAAC championship. Their first berth in the NCAA tournament in 35 years.
Meanwhile, the Gales keep their seniors out there, and Kirill Waxman with now 20 points and 11 rebounds.
And you say why? I think Jeff Ruland trying to just make sure that his team finishes up on a positive note. But again, having to win 3 games in 3 days, you'd think you'd get them out of there, give them an opportunity to rest, make sure nobody gets hurt here coming down the stretch.
Waxman just keeps on working. He and the other front court players have really been the difference so far here tonight. He's got 20 points, Bruin 15, Springer 10, and that's production that Coach Ruland can't count on. It doesn't come every night.
No, certainly not. He's gotten it most nights from Waxman, especially coming down the stretch, averaging over 11 points. And there's another dunk for Bruin. Talk about high percentage shots, so quick off his feet. Well, Waxman averaging over 11 points and over 8.5 rebounds per game. But certainly Springer and Bruin, those 2 guys were the X factor tonight.
That's 28 dunks on the year for Anthony Bruin. And most of them were like that, pretty emphatic. And for Ricky Soliver, he's got 8 assists on that pass. And now we've reached the 2-minute mark. The bench has cleared a bit for Iona. Jeff Ruland's talking about calling a timeout. Hasn't called it yet, as Burt puts it up and in, and now he calls the timeout. Burt will get a round of applause, having scored 25 points. Kenny Jackson comes back in, Justin Marshall back in, and the 5th of the 5 senior captains for Iona, Kenny D'Agostino, comes into the game. Burt, Soliver, Waxman go out, and they have earned every bit of the applause they're hearing right now. Miles off the mark. Marshall the rebound. And Marvin McCullough is the one starter who stays on the floor.
And certainly for Iona, an opportunity to advance on and get past Niagara, something they have not been able to do in each of the last 4 years. So one monkey off their back. Now for this senior class who's had a ton of wins throughout their career. Still one more monkey, and that's a MAAC tournament title and a chance to get to the NCAA tournament. And they look good here in their first action of the weekend in the MAAC tournament.
No doubt about that. They were ready to play from the beginning, up 11-0, and Niagara never really was able to make any sort of push or dent in that lead.
And I think at times the last couple of days, Bobby Gonzalez talking about the fact that he still thinks Iona's the team to beat. I think most people thought that that was just Bobby, trying to set things up for he and his team to try and create a scenario where they were the underdog. But when you see them play like this, you can see why a lot of coaches in the league think that Iona's the most talented team, and with their experience, just may be the team to beat.
Although, as time is taken to allow Jason McPherson, a sophomore from the Bronx, to get into the game for Iona. Here's our Pepsi slam of the game. Of course, it's Anthony Bruin. Pepsi gets the cola.
Take your pick. He had a few.
But you talk about the 2 tournament favorites, either Iona or Manhattan. Our team coming up next, Maris, you can get a few people in this building to say they think the Red Foxes might be the team to beat.
Oh, there's no question about that. They've been the trendy pick here as of late because they've got great balance and have been playing terrific basketball.
An inbound pass inadvertently hit the rim. Here comes D'Agostino. He has the ball knocked out of bounds by DeRozier. He's from nearby Guilderland High School, and so the folks in the stands were hoping he'd get a chance to go to the free throw line.
Didn't get a boo, but certainly got a groan on that one.
That's your ball game. Final score 80-50 for Iona. Today's Pepsi player of the game, Kirill Waxman. 20 points, 13 rebounds, even 3 assists for good measure. Pepsi, it's the cola.
And certainly the player of the game in the group. The front court for Iona certainly was the story. All 3 front court players for Jeff Rulin in double figures, and that was the X factor, especially with the play of Waxman.
They combined for 47 of the 80 Iona points. We'll take a break and come back to wrap things up. Niagara's season is done at 11-18. Iona survives and advances to the MAAC semis tomorrow.